The bitter wind howled through the Colorado mountains as Officer Daniel Martinez began his evening patrol on December 23rd. Snow had been falling steadily for 6 hours, transforming the familiar roads into treacherous white ribbons that snaked through the wilderness. His German Shepherd partner Rex sat alert in the passenger seat, ears perked and nose twitching at scents carried by the frigid air. Daniel had been with the Mountain View Police Department for 8 years, but nights like this still made him uneasy. The temperature had dropped to -15 degrees, and the Weather Service had issued warnings about the worst blizzard in decades. Most sensible people were home, wrapped in blankets by their fireplaces, but Daniel knew that emergencies didn't wait for perfect weather. His radio crackled to life around 9:30. All units, we have a possible abandoned vehicle on Highway 94, mile marker 127. Last reported by a passing trucker about an hour ago. Vehicle appears to be a blue sedan, partially buried in snow. Daniel's stomach tightened. An abandoned car in this weather could mean someone was stranded. And stranded meant deadly on a night like this. He pressed the radio button. Unit 47 responding. E to 15 minutes. Rex seemed to sense the urgency, shifting restlessly as Daniel navigated the increasingly difficult roads. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the accumulating snow, and visibility dropped to mere yards ahead of the patrol car's headlights. When they reached mile marker 127, Daniel almost missed the vehicle entirely. What the trucker had described as partially buried was now completely covered except for the faintest outline of a car's shape beneath a massive snowdrift. Daniel parked his patrol car at an angle to block traffic, though no other vehicles had passed in the last 20 minutes. "Come on, Rex," he said, pulling on his heavy coat and grabbing his flashlight. The cold hit him like a physical blow as he stepped outside. Rex bounded into the snow, immediately beginning to work in the methodical pattern Daniel had trained him for search and rescue operations. Daniel approached the buried vehicle, brushing snow away from what he hoped was a window. The blue paint of a Honda Accord emerged under his gloved hands. He cleared more snow, revealing the driver's side window, and peered inside with his flashlight. The car appeared empty, but something caught his attention on the passenger seat. A small pink backpack and what looked like children's coloring books scattered across the floor. His heart rate quickened. If this car belonged to a family, where were they? He radioed for backup and additional search teams, but knew it could be 30 minutes or more before anyone else arrived in these conditions. Rex had been working in expanding circles around the vehicle, and suddenly his behavior changed. The dog's tail went rigid and he began barking with the specific tone Daniel recognized as an alert. Rex had found something. Following his partner through the knee-deep snow, Daniel struggled to maintain his footing on the uneven terrain. Rex led him about 50 yards from the road, down a small embankment where a cluster of pine trees created a natural windbreak. The snow was slightly less deep here, but still treacherous. Rex stopped at the base of a large evergreen and began digging frantically, whining with excitement and urgency. Daniel joined him, using his hands to clear away the snow where Rex indicated. His fingers, already numb despite his gloves, touched something soft. Fabric. "Oh my God," he whispered, digging faster. What emerged first was a woman's coat sleeve, then an arm. Daniel's training kicked in as he carefully but quickly cleared snow away from what was obviously a person. As he worked, he could see this was a young woman, probably in her 20s, with long dark hair now wet and matted from the snow. She was unconscious but breathing, her lips blue from cold. Even in the dim light of his flashlight, Daniel could see she was pregnant. Very pregnant. Her coat was open, and underneath she wore a thin sweater that provided little protection against the elements. But Rex wasn't finished. The dog had moved a few feet away and was digging again, this time even more urgently. Daniel's flashlight beam revealed two smaller forms, children. His hands shook as he cleared snow from their faces. Twin girls, probably around 4 years old, with the same dark hair as the woman. They were wearing matching pink winter coats, but their small faces were pale and cold. Daniel immediately checked for pulses on all three. The woman's heartbeat was weak but steady. The children's pulses were faint but present. All three were suffering from severe hypothermia, but they were alive. Working quickly, Daniel called for emergency medical services and provided their exact location. He removed his own coat and wrapped it around the woman, then used emergency blankets from his patrol car to cover the children. Rex positioned himself near the family, using his body heat to provide additional warmth. The woman stirred slightly as Daniel adjusted the blanket around her. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused. "My babies," she whispered through chattering teeth. "Where are my babies?" "They're right here," Daniel assured her, kneeling beside her in the snow. "You're all safe now. Help is coming." Her name was Sarah Chen, and through broken whispers she managed to tell Daniel that her car had skidded off the road hours earlier. She had been driving to her sister's house for Christmas when the storm worsened faster than the weather reports had predicted. When her car became stuck, she had tried to keep the engine running for heat, but the snow had blocked the exhaust pipe, forcing her to make an impossible choice. Staying in the car meant risking carbon monoxide poisoning. Leaving the car with her 4-year-old twins Emma and Lily, while 8 months pregnant, seemed equally dangerous. But as the hours passed and no other vehicles appeared on the increasingly impassable road, Sarah had made the desperate decision to seek shelter in the trees. She had carried one child while the other held tightly to her coat, fighting through the snow to reach the pine trees. Her plan had been to wait out the worst of the storm, but the cold had overcome them faster than she had anticipated. The last thing she remembered was pulling the girls close to her body and praying someone would find them. Daniel stayed with the family, monitoring their vital signs and talking to Sarah to keep her conscious. Rex remained vigilant, his warm breath creating small clouds in the frigid air as he watched over the children. The sound of approaching sirens had never been more welcome. The first ambulance arrived 28 minutes after Daniel's call, followed closely by a second emergency vehicle and Fire Chief Robert Hayes with his rescue team. The paramedics, Maria Santos and Jake Wilson, had been working together for 5 years and had seen their share of cold weather emergencies, but the sight of a pregnant woman and 2 small children pulled from a snowbank was something that would stay with them forever. Maria immediately took charge of Sarah's care while Jake focused on the twins. Emma and Lily were conscious but disoriented, their small bodies shivering uncontrollably despite the emergency blankets. Their core temperatures had dropped dangerously low, and Maria knew they were fighting against time. "We need to get them to Mountain General immediately," Maria announced, checking Sarah's vital signs. Her pregnancy complicated everything. They had to consider not just her life, but the life of her unborn child. Sarah's blood pressure was dropping, and Maria could see signs that the extreme cold and stress might be triggering early labor. The rescue team worked with military precision despite the challenging conditions. Chief Hayes had brought portable heating units that they quickly set up around the family, creating a warm zone in the middle of the wilderness. Rex remained close, as if understanding his job wasn't finished until the family was truly safe. Sarah drifted in and out of consciousness during the rescue operation. When alert, her first concern was always for her daughters. "Are they okay?" she would whisper through chattering teeth. "Please tell me they're okay." Emma, the slightly older twin by 7 minutes, had managed to stay more alert than her sister Lily. She kept asking for her mommy and crying for her daddy, who was deployed overseas with the military. Daniel knelt beside her stretcher, Rex at his side, and spoke in gentle tones. "Your mommy is right here, sweetheart," he said. "And this is Rex. He's the one who found you. He's a hero dog." Emma's eyes widened slightly at the sight of the German Shepherd. Despite her condition, she managed a small smile and reached out to touch Rex's fur. The dog remained perfectly still, allowing the little girl to pet him while the paramedics continued their work. The trip to Mountain General Hospital was harrowing. The ambulances had to travel slowly due to the road conditions, and Maria worried constantly about Sarah's condition deteriorating during transport. Sarah had begun experiencing contractions, and Maria feared the combination of hypothermia and stress might cause premature labor. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the emergency room director, had been alerted to the incoming patients and had assembled her best team. The hospital's trauma bay was prepared for multiple critical cases, and the pediatric staff was standing by for the twins. When the ambulances arrived, the controlled chaos of emergency medicine took over. Sarah was rushed directly to the obstetrics wing where Dr. Michael Chen, no relation despite the shared surname, was waiting with the neonatal team. The twins were taken to pediatric intensive care, where Dr. Jennifer Walsh began the delicate process of treating severe hypothermia in young children. Daniel followed the ambulances to the hospital, with Rex still by his side. He couldn't explain why, but he felt personally responsible for this family's well-being. During his 8 years as an officer, He had responded to countless emergencies, but something about finding Sarah and her daughters in the snow had affected him deeply. In the pediatric ICU, Emma and Lily were placed in warming chambers designed to gradually raise their body temperature. The process had to be slow and carefully monitored. Warming them too quickly could cause dangerous cardiac arrhythmias. Dr. Walsh explained to Daniel that the girls were stable but critical. They were incredibly lucky, she said, reviewing their charts. Another hour in those conditions and we might be having a very different conversation. Their mother made smart choices. Keeping them close to her body and finding shelter in those trees probably saved their lives. Meanwhile, in the obstetrics wing, Sarah's condition was becoming more complicated. The extreme cold had put tremendous stress on her body, and her contractions were becoming stronger and more regular. Dr. Chen made the difficult decision that they needed to prepare for an emergency delivery. The baby's heartbeat is showing signs of distress, he explained to his team. Between the hypothermia and the early labor, we can't wait any longer. Sarah was conscious during the preparations, and her first question was about her daughters. A nurse, Patricia Moore, held her hand and provided updates. They're stable, honey. They're warming up, and the doctors say they're going to be fine. I need to call my husband, Sarah whispered. He's stationed in Germany. He doesn't know anything has happened. Patricia promised to help contact Sarah's husband as soon as the immediate medical crisis was resolved. The military had protocols for emergency family situations, and they would make sure he was notified and could get emergency leave if needed. The labor progressed quickly, complicated by Sarah's weakened condition from the hypothermia. Dr. Chen and his team worked efficiently, monitoring both mother and baby continuously. At 3:47 a.m. on December 24th, Sarah gave birth to a son they would later name Noah, a Christmas Eve miracle born from a near tragedy. The baby was small but healthy, his cries filling the delivery room and bringing tears to the eyes of the medical staff who had been working to save this family for hours. Sarah wept when she heard her son's voice, overwhelmed with relief that he had survived the ordeal that could have claimed all their lives. Back in the pediatric ICU, Emma and Lily were showing significant improvement. Their body temperatures had stabilized and they were becoming more alert and responsive. Rex had been allowed into the hospital as an official therapy dog for this special case, and the twins were fascinated by their four-legged rescuer. Daniel hadn't left the hospital. He had called his sergeant to explain the situation and had been told to stay as long as needed. Something about this case had touched everyone involved, and the department wanted to ensure the family had all the support they needed. As dawn broke on Christmas Eve, bringing clearer skies and a break in the storm, the Chen family was together in the hospital, battered but alive, weak but recovering, and grateful beyond words for the chain of events that had led to their rescue. Sarah held her newborn son while Emma and Lily, bundled in warm blankets, sat beside her bed with Rex lying protectively at their feet. The story of their survival was already beginning to spread beyond the hospital walls, capturing the attention of local media and touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. News of the miraculous rescue spread throughout Mountain View and beyond with remarkable speed. By Christmas Eve morning, local television stations had picked up the story, and reporters were gathering outside Mountain General Hospital hoping for interviews. The tale of a pregnant mother and her twin daughters surviving a blizzard, only to be found by a police officer and his canine partner, captured the public imagination in a way that surprised everyone involved. Sarah's husband, Sergeant First Class David Chen, received the emergency notification while stationed at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. The Red Cross message was brief but devastating. Family emergency. Wife and children hospitalized. Contact immediately. The 12-hour time difference meant he received the call in the middle of his night shift, and the initial lack of details left him imagining the worst possible scenarios. When David finally reached the hospital and spoke with Dr. Harper, the relief in his voice was audible across the Atlantic Ocean. They're alive, he kept repeating. They're all alive. Emergency military leave was approved within hours, and David was on a transport flight to the United States by Christmas Eve evening. At the hospital, Sarah was recovering slowly but steadily. The successful delivery of baby Noah had relieved much of the immediate medical concern, but she was still being monitored for complications from the hypothermia. Her room had become an unofficial gathering place for the medical staff, who had been involved in the rescue and treatment. Emma and Lily were the stars of the pediatric ward. Their energy had returned with their normal body temperature, and they had become fascinated with Rex, who had been granted special permission to remain in the hospital as a therapy dog. The twins took turns brushing his fur and feeding him treats that Daniel had brought from the pet store. "Rex saved us," Emma announced to anyone who would listen. Her 4-year-old vocabulary couldn't fully express what had happened, but she understood that the big dog was special. Lily, typically quieter than her sister, preferred to simply sit next to Rex and stroke his ears while she colored in new coloring books that the hospital staff had provided. Daniel found himself spending most of his off-duty hours at the hospital. His sergeant had given him administrative leave to handle the media attention and follow-up reports, but Daniel's presence seemed to comfort the family. Sarah had expressed repeatedly that she felt Rex and Daniel were guardian angels sent to save her children. The story was picked up by national news outlets by Christmas morning. CNN ran a segment titled, "Christmas Miracle in Colorado," and social media was filled with photos of Rex and the twins. The Mountain View Police Department's Facebook page gained thousands of new followers overnight, all wanting updates on the family's condition. But the media attention brought unexpected complications. Sarah's sister Jessica, who lived in Denver and had been the intended destination of that fateful drive, arrived at the hospital to find reporters camped in the parking lot. She had to be escorted through a back entrance to avoid the cameras and questions. "This is overwhelming," Jessica told Sarah as she held baby Noah for the first time. "I've been getting calls from news stations, magazines, even a movie producer. Everyone wants to tell your story." Sarah was conflicted about the attention. She was grateful that people cared about what had happened to her family, but she was also exhausted and wanted to focus on recovery. The near-death experience had left her emotionally fragile, and she sometimes found herself crying without warning as the reality of how close they had come to tragedy set in. Dr. Walsh, the pediatric specialist, became an unofficial spokesperson for the family, providing carefully worded updates to the media while protecting the family's privacy. She explained that the twins had suffered no permanent damage from their hypothermia, which was remarkable given the severity of their condition when found. "Children are often more resilient than adults in cold weather emergencies," Dr. Walsh explained to reporters. "Their smaller body mass means they lose heat faster, but they also respond more quickly to rewarming treatments. Emma and Lily are proof of that resilience." The hospital administration was struggling with the unprecedented media attention. Hospital policy prohibited cameras in patient areas, but the public interest in the story was enormous. They compromised by allowing Daniel and Rex to hold a brief press conference in the hospital lobby, where Daniel could thank the community for their support without compromising patient privacy. During the press conference, Daniel was clearly uncomfortable with the attention. He was a small-town police officer who had simply been doing his job, and the hero label that everyone wanted to place on him felt undeserved. "I want to be clear about something," he said to the gathered reporters. "Rex is the real hero here. I was just following my partner's lead. K-9 units are trained for exactly this kind of situation, and Rex performed perfectly. Without him, we might never have found Sarah and the girls in time." Rex sat calmly beside Daniel during the press conference, wearing a new collar that the police department had provided with his name and badge number clearly displayed. His calm demeanor and alert expression made him a natural for the cameras, and photos of the German Shepherd would later appear on front pages across the country. The community response was overwhelming. Gifts began arriving at the hospital for the family: toys for the twins, baby clothes for Noah, flowers and cards for Sarah. The hospital gift shop ran out of stuffed animals as visitors bought presents for Emma and Lily. Local restaurants offered to provide meals for the family once they were discharged. A local business owner, Maria Rodriguez, who owned a chain of family restaurants, approached the hospital administration about covering all of the family's medical expenses. "This family has been through enough," she said. "They shouldn't have to worry about hospital bills on top of everything else." The offer sparked a wave of similar gestures from throughout the community. The local auto repair shop offered to fix Sarah's car, which had been towed from the highway and needed work after being buried in snow for hours. A hotel offered free accommodation for Jessica and other family members who had traveled to be with Sarah. But perhaps the most touching gesture came from an unexpected source. Children from Emma and Lily's preschool had made a banner reading "Welcome Home" and had drawn pictures of Rex saving the family. The twins' teacher, Mrs. Anderson, brought the artwork to the hospital, and Emma and Lily were delighted to see their friends' drawings. The pictures showed stick figures in the snow with a large dog standing protectively over them. One drawing, created by Emma's best friend Katie, showed Rex with wings like an angel. When Emma saw it, she nodded seriously and said, "That's right. Rex is an angel dog." As Christmas Day progressed, the hospital took on a festive atmosphere, despite the serious medical work continuing. The staff had decorated the pediatric ward with lights and garlands, and volunteers dressed as Santa and elves visited patients. For Emma and Lily, who had faced death just days earlier, the celebrations felt magical. Sarah spent Christmas Day reflecting on how different this holiday could have been. Instead of opening presents with her daughters and holding her newborn son, she could have been planning funerals. The thought was almost too painful to bear, but it also filled her with overwhelming gratitude for every moment she was able to spend with her children. David Chen's arrival at Denver International Airport on Christmas evening was a moment of pure emotion that airport staff would remember for years. Still wearing his military uniform from the rushed journey across the Atlantic, he was met by Jessica and driven directly to Mountain General Hospital through roads still treacherous from the recent blizzard. The reunion in Sarah's hospital room was overwhelming. David had spoken to his wife by phone, but seeing her in person, holding their newborn son while Emma and Lily slept peacefully in chairs beside her bed, made the reality of their survival hit him with full force. He broke down completely, holding Sarah and baby Noah while trying not to wake the twins. "I thought I'd lost you all," he whispered through tears. "When I got that first call, I imagined the worst. I can't believe you're here. I can't believe Noah is here." Rex, who had been lying quietly beside the twins' chairs, lifted his head and watched the emotional reunion with what Daniel later described as understanding. The dog had become so attached to the family that he whined softly whenever he was separated from them, and the hospital staff had started joking that Rex had adopted the Chen family rather than the other way around. The twins woke to find their father holding them, and their excited chatter filled the room. Emma immediately launched into her version of the rescue story, which had grown more elaborate with each telling. According to Emma, Rex was not just a police dog but a superhero dog who could fly and had special powers to find people in the snow. Lily, still typically quieter than her sister, simply held tightly to David's hand and whispered, "Daddy, we were so cold, but Rex kept us warm." Her simple statement captured the essence of their survival in a way that all the media coverage had struggled to convey. Dr. Chen ran additional tests on baby Noah to ensure that his premature birth and the circumstances surrounding it hadn't caused any developmental issues. The results were remarkably positive. Noah was small, but healthy, with no signs of complications from the traumatic delivery. His lungs were strong, his reflexes normal, and his weight was increasing steadily. "This little guy is a fighter," Dr. Chen told David and Sarah. "Considering everything he went through before birth, his condition is exceptional. We'll want to monitor his development closely over the next few months, but all indications are that he'll be perfectly healthy." The medical team began discussing discharge plans for the family. Emma and Lily had recovered completely from their hypothermia and were eager to go home. Sarah was healing well from the delivery, though she would need several more days of observation. The plan was to discharge the twins first, allowing them to stay with Jessica while Sarah and Noah remained in the hospital for continued monitoring. However, the media attention had created practical complications for the family's return to normal life. Reporters were still camped outside the hospital, and the family's home address had somehow been discovered and shared online. Their small house in Mountain View had become a destination for well-wishers, curiosity seekers, and more media representatives. David was overwhelmed by the attention and struggled with how to handle it. As a soldier, he was trained for combat situations, but managing media interest in his family's private trauma was completely outside his experience. The hospital's public relations department offered to help coordinate any statements or interviews the family might want to give. "We just want to go home and be a family," David told the PR coordinator. We're grateful for everyone's concern, but this attention is becoming difficult to manage. The community's response, however, continued to be overwhelmingly positive. Local businesses had organized a fund to help the family with expenses, and the account had grown to over $50,000 in just a few days. A furniture store had offered to replace anything in their home that might have been damaged by winter weather during their absence, and a local car dealership had offered to provide a reliable vehicle to replace Sarah's damaged Honda. Rex had become a local celebrity in his own right. The Mountain View Police Department was receiving requests from schools, community groups, and other organizations asking for Rex to visit and demonstrate search and rescue techniques. Officer Martinez was proud of his partner's recognition, but also protective of Rex's well-being and routine. Rex is still a working police dog, Daniel explained to reporters. We appreciate everyone's interest, but he has regular duties to perform. We'll try to accommodate some community visits, but his primary job is law enforcement and emergency response. The police department had also received dozens of applications from people wanting to volunteer with K9 units or donate money for additional search and rescue dogs. The chief of police, Robert Hayes, saw an opportunity to expand their K9 program and improve their emergency response capabilities. This incident has shown our community the value of well-trained search and rescue teams, Chief Hayes announced. We're exploring options for adding more K9 units and enhancing our wilderness rescue capabilities. Meanwhile, the twins had become the darlings of the hospital staff. Every nurse, doctor, and volunteer seemed to find reasons to visit their room. Emma had appointed herself as Rex's official caretaker, making sure he had fresh water and treats throughout the day. Lily had started drawing pictures of their rescue, showing remarkable detail for a 4-year-old's artwork. One of Lily's drawings particularly moved the hospital staff. It showed their family as stick figures holding hands, with Rex sitting beside them and angel wings drawn around all of them. When asked about the wings, Lily explained matter-of-factly, "We're all angels now because Rex saved us." The twins' resilience amazed the child psychologist who had been brought in to assess them for potential trauma. Dr. Michelle Torres, who specialized in treating children who had experienced life-threatening situations, found that Emma and Lily showed no signs of post-traumatic stress. Children often process traumatic events differently than adults, Dr. Torres explained to David and Sarah. Emma and Lily seem to have integrated this experience as an adventure story rather than a near-death experience. Rex's presence throughout their recovery has been therapeutic, giving them a positive focus rather than dwelling on the frightening aspects of what happened. However, Sarah was experiencing some delayed emotional reactions to the trauma. She had moments of intense anxiety, particularly when she thought about what could have happened to her children. The hospital's counseling services were helping her process the experience, but she admitted to feeling overwhelmed by survivor's guilt and the weight of having made life or death decisions for her family. "I keep thinking about all the things that could have gone wrong," she confided to the counselor. "What if I had decided to stay in the car? What if we hadn't found those trees? What if Officer Martinez hadn't been working that night? There were so many variables that had to align perfectly for us to survive." The counselor helped Sarah understand that her quick thinking and protective instincts had been crucial to their survival. "You made the right decisions under impossible circumstances," she was told. "Your actions saved your children's lives. That's not luck. That's a mother's love and intelligence working together." As the family prepared for discharge, the hospital staff organized a small celebration. The cafeteria prepared a special dinner, and the pediatric ward was decorated with balloons and streamers. Rex was given a special commendation certificate from the hospital administration, recognizing his role in saving the family's lives. 6 months after that fateful December night, the Chen family had settled into a new normal that was both ordinary and extraordinary. Baby Noah was thriving, reaching all his developmental milestones and showing no lasting effects from his dramatic entrance into the world. Emma and Lily had returned to preschool, where they were minor celebrities among their classmates for having been rescued by a police dog. The media attention had gradually subsided, but the impact of their story continued to ripple through the community in meaningful ways. The Mountain View Police Department had indeed expanded their K9 program, adding 2 additional search and rescue dogs thanks to donations that poured in after the rescue. Rex had become the face of the program, visiting schools and community events to demonstrate search and rescue techniques. Officer Daniel Martinez had been promoted to detective and was now leading the department's emergency response training program. His experience finding the Chen family had taught him valuable lessons about wilderness rescue that he was eager to share with other officers. He had also written a detailed report on the incident that was being used by police departments across the state, as a training example. That night changed how I think about police work, Daniel reflected during a training session. We talk about protecting and serving, but sometimes that means being in the right place at the right time with the right training. Rex and I happened to be all three that night. Rex had fully recovered from the attention and returned to his regular duties, though he still received fan mail from children across the country. The police department had set up a special P.O. box for Rex's correspondence, and Daniel made sure to respond to as many letters as possible, especially those from young children who were interested in police work or search and rescue operations. The Chen family had moved to a larger house, on the outskirts of Mountain View, purchased with help from the community fund that had been established after their rescue. The new home had a large fenced yard where Emma and Lily could play safely, and a special gate that allowed Rex to visit whenever Daniel was off duty. David had been granted a transfer to a stateside military base, allowing him to remain close to his family. The near loss of his wife and children had prompted him to reevaluate his career priorities, and he was considering leaving the military after completing his current enlistment to pursue a career in emergency management. That phone call in Germany was the worst moment of my life, David explained to a veteran support group where he now volunteered. But it also showed me what really matters. I don't want to be on the other side of the world if my family needs me again. Sarah had become an advocate for winter safety and emergency preparedness, speaking at community groups and parent organizations about the importance of having emergency supplies in vehicles and knowing how to respond to weather emergencies. Her presentations always emphasized the split-second decisions that can mean the difference between life and death. I want other parents to learn from what happened to us, Sarah told a group of local mothers. I thought I was prepared for winter, driving, but I learned that preparation means more than just having blankets and water in your car. It means understanding when to stay put and when to move, and it means making sure someone knows your travel plans. The twins had developed an unshakable bond with Rex that amazed everyone who witnessed it. During his visits to their home, Rex seemed to transform from a working police dog into a gentle family pet, playing fetch with the girls and patiently enduring their attempts to dress him up in doll clothes. Daniel often joked that Rex had two completely different personalities, Officer Rex and Uncle Rex. Emma had announced her intention to become a police officer when she grew up, specifically so she could work with search and rescue dogs. She had begun reading books about dogs and law enforcement that were far above her reading level, though she often needed help with the bigger words. Her determination impressed her teachers, who had started incorporating police and emergency services topics into her learning activities. Lily had taken a different path, becoming fascinated with weather and meteorology. She watched weather reports religiously and had started keeping a journal of daily weather conditions. Her preschool teacher had helped her create a simple weather tracking chart, and Lily took pride in being the class weather reporter each morning. The community had embraced the Chen family as symbols of resilience and hope. Local businesses displayed photos of the rescue, and the annual Mountain View Christmas Festival now included a special recognition ceremony for emergency responders. Rex and Daniel were honored guests at the first festival after the rescue, where Rex was given the key to the city and declared an honorary citizen of Mountain View. But perhaps the most significant long-term impact was the change in emergency response protocols throughout the region. The Chen family rescue had highlighted gaps in communication between weather services, emergency management, and law enforcement that could have cost precious time. New systems were implemented to ensure faster coordination during severe weather events. Dr. Harper at Mountain General Hospital had used the case as the foundation for a research project on treating hypothermia in pregnant women and young children. Her findings were published in medical journals and had influenced treatment protocols at hospitals nationwide. The Chen family's experience was helping to save other lives, even though they would never know the specific families who benefited. The twins' 5th birthday party in June was a celebration that brought together everyone who had been part of their rescue and recovery. Rex attended in full uniform, complete with a birthday hat that Emma had specially made for him. The party was held in the backyard of their new home, with Daniel, Dr. Harper, Maria Santos, Jake Wilson, and dozens of other community members who had played roles in their survival. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Sarah found herself standing with Daniel and Rex, watching David push Emma and Lily on their new swing set, while baby Noah slept peacefully in his carrier. The scene was so normal, so wonderfully ordinary, that it was hard to believe how close they had come to losing it all. "I think about that night often," Sarah told Daniel. "Not the scary parts anymore, but the miracle parts. All the things that had to happen exactly right for you and Rex to find us when you did." Daniel nodded, scratching Rex behind the ears. "Rex likes to take credit for the whole thing, but I think there were forces at work that night that were bigger than any of us. We were just the instruments." As if understanding the conversation, Rex looked up at both of them with his intelligent brown eyes and wagged his tail once, slowly and deliberately. Then he trotted over to where Emma and Lily were playing, positioning himself in the shade nearby where he could watch over them, just as he had done on that snowy December night when he first became their guardian angel. The story of Sarah Chen and her twin daughters had become legend in Mountain View, a reminder that miracles can happen when courage, training, and love come together at exactly the right moment. But for the family themselves, the real miracle was not their rescue. It was every ordinary day that followed. Every bedtime story, every scraped knee kissed better, every moment of the life they had almost lost but were blessed to keep.